Hi, my name is Nick Arandes with another episode of Healing Together. And today we're going to talk about what love is not. Why do I say what love is not? Because when I mean by love, and you'll see what I'm talking about, love is more like the essence of who we are. And the reason why I feel love is being so distorted or confused is because we associate with feelings, with sensations, and all these beliefs we have around it. So let's explore this theme, see where it takes us. The first thing that love is not is a feeling. What I mean by that, again, I have to be careful with the words. A total expression or a sense of expansiveness or something that cannot be explained in words. It cannot be limited to a feeling, because a feeling, the very same feeling that anybody could have, according to their interpretation, that very same feeling will lead to two different behaviors, for example. So again, who's to say that that feeling is love? Is that same feeling is the one that somebody else is utilizing to justify their behavior? Okay, so let's say let's begin with this desire. Okay, love, is it a desire, or what that desire is? Well, let's explore the word desire now. It's very popular. I've heard a lot saying that desire means of the Father or something like that. But let's just explore and see where it goes. Desire implies lack, because only when there is lack, there is a desire. If there's no lack, there is no desire. Would you say that the Father, in this case, we're talking about all that there is, could experience any form of lack? Well, if I don't think so, because again, if it's all that there is, where's the lack? Lack only is experienced when there's a belief in separation, when there's the appearance of separation. So a desire comes from lack. I mean, why would you desire to eat? Because you feel the lack of food in the system. Why would somebody have the desire for love? Is because it believed that it's not complete already. So that's why we seek, right? The object of our desires, because we feel that somehow that desire, if it's fulfilled, I'm going to feel whole and complete. But the problem is that as long as I believe to be a human being, meaning a limited part, a limited aspect of the whole, as long as I believe to be a human being, then I will always be experience desires. And if you might have noticed by now, is that every time a desire is fulfilled, then another one comes up. You see, because that is the nature of humanness. It's lack. We feel lack because we feel separate. I feel that I am a body separate from you. Therefore, I'm lacking the experience of the wholeness, because at a much deeper level, who we are is the experience itself, the wholeness itself. It's not just this little part of itself, of the whole. So that's why there's the desire. As long as I take the whole and sort of limit to one aspect of itself, in this case, let's call it a human body, I am feeling lack, because the nature of who I am is everything, and all of a sudden I'm experiencing myself as just a little part of it. So I feel lacking, and as a result of that, I want to find other bodies or objects or whatever to somehow feel that sense of lack that is not who I am. Who I am is the expansion of the wholeness, the love. That's why we don't try to use the word love to explain it. And again, I limit it to one aspect of the whole thing. So again, that's why I experience lack. So the word desire of the Father is like saying of the wholeness. But again, the wholeness is already it already is. So where is the lack in there? So again, that's a play on words. You can choose if you want to adhere to that meaning. I honestly realized that it didn't serve me at all, because once again, a desire implies lack. So desire is really not of the Father. If anything, is of the ego, because the ego is the one that feels separate, feels like a part of the whole, like a part from the whole, right? And is seeking through desire to feel itself complete. Another thing that love is not, pleasure. And I think that's the reason why there's so much pain around the word love and so much fear around it, because we have somehow linked, or would say associated, love with pleasure. That's why love, if you notice, is an industry. pleasurable toys, pleasurable things. We have sex because we want the pleasure that we derive from it, right? And the thing about it is that, once again, let's say that I feel attraction towards a person, okay? There's a pleasure, there's this sensation, right? And I call that love. Well, the challenge is that I can feel that very same sensations, now we're talking about the sensations, to justify a different kind of behavior that could be not a very loving kind of behavior. And if the sensations are the same, then how come I can call this love and this not love? If I call this love and the sensation is what I associate with, then this other sensation that has to do with a behavior that is not very kind and loving, then I'm assuming that that's love as well. So in reality, am I really in love, or then am I in pleasure? So love is not a pleasurable desire. Love, again, is an experience of wholeness. It's an experience of well-being, one that is complete with the whole. So let's now look at the desires, and let's look at the pleasure and everything. How do we handle this? How can I then return my awareness of it? Well, I think that one of the huge, I would call the word mistake, I apologize if it's not the right word, that we make is that we try to control the behavior. We try to suppress the feelings, because if love is not a desire, that means that I have to suppress my desires. I have to not feel them, or I feel guilty if I feel desire, because it means that I am denying love, and actually that's sort of like a war then you have within yourself. And if you may have noticed, when you try to suppress a desire in terms of one of the spiritual things should be that I should not feel this way or whatever, then that's a time bomb, and that's going to explode, and you notice that. So there's a healthy way of dealing with desires so that you can actually open yourself to love. Same thing with pleasure, because it's sort of kind of the same thing, right? The first thing is not suppress the desire, acknowledge the desire isn't there, and actually, as the desire is seeking expression, one thing I can do is allow the desire to come in, but don't make the mistake of justifying it. That's the difference. See, so if I have the desire towards someone, for example, or towards something, I can honor myself. Wow, I do feel a lot of desire towards something, meaning I feel this profound sense of lack that I think that something is going to somehow fulfill it. I can be conscious of it. I'm not suppressing it. I am allowing the feeling to experience itself, but because I am aware, I'm conscious of it, I'm not acting on it. That's the difference. See, and this, I know this is the hardest part, because the nature of the human being or whatever is to try to fulfill the desire, to try to let that energy, I don't know what the words, I can find the word right now. That's why when you have the desire for sex, for example, what you want is the orgasm, because you want to somehow take that energy and let it express itself. The problem is that if we're not conscious, that energy can be led to, again, a lot of behavior that is not very, very loving or very kind. And I'm talking about even within a relationship of spouses, also can lead to very unkind behavior, a play of guilt, a role of the victim, victimizer, and whatever the case may be. So first thing is to be conscious and to be open to allow ourselves to feel that which we're feeling, but to take away whatever story the mind is trying to use to justify that feeling, because that is what is called all the fear that is coming up to the surface. That if we take all the meaning to it, if we don't make anything special of it, then it's the wisdom, the love that we are. It's trying to love, to accept, to take everything and integrate, so to speak. As a result of that, what happens is that those feelings, those sensations, as they are being healed, you notice that the desires begins to sort of diminish. So if you are a very sexual person, for example, in many cases you realize that all these desires begin to diminish. right? If anything that is compulsive, whatever, it doesn't matter, because there's a part of you that is actually doing the work. You don't have to do the work. That's the beauty of it all. You don't have to try to figure it out or understand it. There's nothing, no, there's none of that. As a matter of fact, our trying to figure it out and to understand that is just like open a can of worms within a can, open a can of worms within another can of worms, you know? So it's like when you're in what's it called? Quicksand. When you're in quicksand, you notice that what they ask you to do is not to move. But because there's fear, the tendency is to try to move to get out of it, but the moving is what keeps you sinking, right? So in this case, it's the same thing. When in the midst of all this turbulence and everything, is being willing not to suppress, but to simply open myself to the experience so that the love that I am can actually begin to heal all of that. As a result of that, I begin to experience a sense of expansiveness, a sense of something that wants to integrate everything. That's the love that we're talking about. Of course, because we have all these ideas, again, love, the industry of love has to sell based on fear. And what is fear? Pleasure, desire, according to that. That's the motive of all fear behavior. Right? And it doesn't matter whether you think it's a right thing or wrong or positive or negative. If it's motivated by desire, if it's motivated by pleasure, it's fear. It doesn't matter what it is, because it's implying that which is the object of my desire, could be a person, could be a thing, somehow it's going to make me happy. Again, well, I'm coming from a place of lack. I'm going from a place of belief that whatever I achieve or whatever I get, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's going to make me feel whole. But you are already whole, and that's what wholeness is trying to do. It's looking at the obstacles that are showing up to the surface in the form of desire, right? And it basically burns them little by little. But I have to open myself to feel them, and the only thing that makes this very scary for people is the stories that we make around the desire itself. Some people say, I shouldn't feel this way. That means that I'm a bad person. That means that I'm sick. I mean that I'm what? It doesn't mean anything. The nature of a human being is having desires, you know, because again, the human being feels incomplete because he feels like a separate from the whole. So he needs to somehow fulfill those desires. But we can now take that same desire, put it we can put it in the hands of the wisdom of the love that we are, so that it can handle it for us. So now, it means that now that you know this, if you feel the desire to have sex, you shouldn't have it? No. What it means is that while you're noticing the desire, you can become conscious of it, and as a result of that, not making anything spiritual around it, not trying to make anything special around it, take any meaning out of it. By becoming conscious, the same love itself, the same wisdom will lead you to a behavior that is healthier, right? So if you're with your partner, so you'll have the experience, but you don't make anything out of it. It's not romantic, it's not important, it doesn't mean that I love you, it doesn't mean anything. It simply means that right now the desire showed up, we are in a relationship, we just allow it to be, and then we continue on with our lives, right? That's basically it. If you don't have a relationship, well, it'll come another creative way in which you will feel moved to allow that expression to take place, but it will be a healthier way in which you won't hurt yourself nor anybody. See, there's no guilt around it, there's nothing around. So we're not dealing with guilt, we're not talking about what you should or should not do. We're just clarifying so you don't get caught up into believing that love means desire, love means pleasure, or whatever the case may be. Because you're opening now to the real love that is a sense of wholeness and completeness that doesn't need any other thing. It doesn't need the sex, doesn't need the pleasure, because now it's a total different space. Again, that's why the word love cannot be described or explained. It's just what is, right? Now, of course, you may say, yeah, but if there's no desire, right? If there's no pleasure, then life is boring. No, my friend, when there's no desire, where there's no pleasure, life is peaceful. Because that's what we all want. We all want a sense of inner peace, if you think about it. That's all we desire. We don't desire anything else except for being at peace. So in a sense, the ultimate desire is the release from all desire. You know, the ultimate desire, the true desire, is the freedom from all desires, because then you're not imprisoned by your desires. Remember, I think there's a movie many years ago that says, you know, that which you own owns you. I don't know if it's a Fight Club or something like that. Well, in a sense, if you have a desire for something, then you are owned by that desire, and therefore you're in prison of your own mind, because nothing can cause a desire on you. It's all within you. So we're just releasing ourselves, we're becoming free. And once again, when I am free of desire, all that happens is that I live a peaceful, full life. And once again, don't try to make any sense, don't try to understand this from the mind that is still identified with desire and pleasure. No, don't try to understand it. Just simply observe the desire and the pleasure very innocently and say, okay, now I realize that I am caught up in a web of belief in separation, of lack, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, as long as you believe to be a human being, that's going to be part of your condition. The difference is that you're not going to feel guilty about it, and you're not going to judge yourself for it. You simply observe it. And that's all we're learning to do. Observe how I still have a desire for this and not feeling guilty about it. Just simply bring a little bit of awareness to it and just step back a little and see, let the desire come through. As a matter of fact, I don't know much about this, but from what I've read and what I've heard, when people have a drug addiction, for example, and they go to a place for rehabilitation, I believe that they leave them for 3 or 4 days without the drugs, so that can, you know, that all that toxicity can be released from the system. Those experiences for them are very painful, very painful. They're going through hell, literally. Well, we're doing exactly that, but we're not being that extreme. We're being more loving. In other words, when the desire comes through and you know that there's a burning desire, you can allow yourself to let that desire come through. You just let it be. Not like the Beatles, let it be. I think that's the greatest lesson. Let it be. I allow it to feel, but somehow as you continue doing that, there's a part of you that is being burned, right? And then if you cannot hold anymore and it's too strong, then okay, no big deal. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to have to have that chocolate cake, or I'm going to have to release this. But at least you're doing it consciously, and you're doing it in a very loving and kind way, which is not hurting you, is not hurting anyone. And then, well, when the time comes that a lot of that has been released, the desire and all this, you know, all these feelings of lack begin to little by little subside. And that's how we begin to handle that. Right? Again, you're not handling it yourself, because you're the problem is yourself who's trying to handle that which at much deeper level you put there, right? But I'm opening myself to the release of that. So I'm not doing the work, I'm opening myself so that the work can be done through me. You see? That's why it's very simple. I didn't say it was easy, because again, when all these feelings are coming through, I know that we feel like we're going through hell. That's why it is called the dark night of the soul. I talked about it in another video, because really the dark night of the soul is my, let's say, the part of the mind that desires truth, means desires peace, true inner peace, but there's still another part of the mind that is still attached to the idea that this is who I am, and to the belief that the world still has something of value to offer me, a pleasurable thing, all the pleasure. So because there's an ambivalence between the two, you cannot be in both at the same time. You can always be between one or the other one, but that ambivalence between the two stays, you know, it's like the mind being split, so to speak. That ambivalence is what causes what's called tension, and that tension is experienced as conflict. So yes, you have to go through that. There's no shortcut. I mean, there's not a magic wand of, if you do this practice, or if you do this, all of a sudden you're gonna feel wonderful, you're gonna be released. Well, again, if you do find it good, I cannot tell you if it's or it's not, but for the most part, that's a process through which we have to go through, because we're burning all this obstacles we have placed on love, and the obstacles again is the meaning we have placed on it. Love means desire, love means pleasure, love means these feelings or whatever. Love means none of that. Love is. That's the difference. Love is. You are love. You cannot not be love. But as long as I attach to one single meaning to the essence of who I am, I'm completely lost 100%. So all we're doing right now is healing all these obstacles that we have placed onto the essence of who we are, so that then what you can be is really in love in all time. You're not in love with everything, with any particular thing. You are living in love, and in that sense, of course, you cannot not be in love with everything. It doesn't matter who you're with, you're in love with that, because if that's part of you, then all you can do is love that which is a part of you. So this is why I say that I can tell you what love is not. I cannot tell you what love is, because love is.